I'm Scott with Global Creative. We are a trade show design and production company doing shows throughout the US and Europe. This video is about doing a 10 by 10 in the USA. Now, 10 by 10 is a small size. You don't have that many options. Typically, budget is the main concern, but there are different ways to approach this. So I'm going to outline some of those along with their pros and cons. So let's just jump in. First, what we should do, and I hope that I don't have to really spell this out for anyone, is, what are your goals? What are you trying to do? Typically, it's going to be some combination of lead gen, brand awareness, or meetings. Okay, realistically speaking, you're not going to really get that much brand awareness using a 10 by 10 booth. It just realistically won't happen. And so that is also going to impact your lead generation. That said, you'll get some awareness, you'll get some lead gen, but if that's your primary goal, you shouldn't be doing a 10 by 10. You should be doing something else, a minimum and island booth. So if you're going with a 10 by 10, I'm assuming that your main objective here is going to be meetings. So, that way you can preset the meetings ahead of time. You can do pre-show outreach. So this right here will probably be your best bet. You can utilize a lot of those tools ahead of time. So fill up your schedule and then use the booth during the show. What else can we talk about here? This is kind of the high level stuff. This video is really more about the logistics and implementation, right? We're going to talk about like what you get like with a 10 by 10 in the US and, what are your options in terms of complexity and cost on how to execute that. Let's just start with typically when you order a 10 by 10, you have the option from Freeman for just a basic booth or a full-on booth. So most of the time, most exhibitors will just get the basic package. This is something typically, I don't know, it costs anywhere between like maybe $5K up to like maybe $8K for a 10 by 10. And what you get with that, just the basic package from Freeman, that says your 10 by 10, they put a pipe and drape in your booth, okay? And when we say pipe and drape, this is the pipe and drape. All right, so for all you Europeans out there who have not done US shows, you may be wondering what the heck is pipe and drape? Pipe and drape is this super cheap, ugly stuff that Freeman puts, or GES, they put throughout the show to be like a divider system. And so it is the equivalent of the European like Octanorm with the PVC panels in there, except that this stuff is much uglier and cheaper and just looks terrible. That said, it's everywhere in the show. So like you having it at your booth doesn't like give you any disadvantage to anyone else. It's just like throughout the show. What does it look like? So if we do your 10 by 10 here like this, so normally what you'd have is there's an 8-foot section and then you have two smaller sections here. And this is like a pipe system, right? They extend pipes across, it hooks into another pipe, it comes down, and then here is they have a base plate here. They actually just drape black fabric here, like on it. It looks like this, okay? That's what it looks like. All right, so this is your basic package. You might have a little sign up here with your name on it or whatever, right? That's the basic package. Maybe even a table with a couple chairs. So if you wanted to go super, super bare bones and just get this, you get a table and chairs. You'd have like maybe a 2-meter wide table. You'd put some products on there that you brought in a suitcase. Done. We're not really even going to talk about that because it's not even doing anything. You just bring your stuff and put it on a table. You just order from the Freeman portal. So one is just a Freeman. We'll just call it a Freeman package. That's option one. Option two is to just do a couple roll-ups, 2 or 3 roll-ups. Many times, an exhibitor might imagine if this is your booth. That's your 10 by 10 booth. They might set up 3 banners here or something, or even, put one like right here. There's this option right here. So bring let's say 3 roll-ups. So, the roll-ups, you're gonna look super cheap. So if you look at it from a front view, what would it look like? So, imagine, here's your carpet, and then you'd have the pipe and drape, but you'd have like 3 banners, and then you'd have like the pipe and drape kind of behind it, and then here on the sides as well. Then you have your pipe and drape right here. This very, very cheap looking, but it's better than nothing. Okay, so this is just one step in the right direction. Why do people do this? It's cost effective. You know, these roll ups, they come in like they come in these small packages. You roll them up. They're easy to set up. They're easy for your salespeople to just open up and put on there. That said, some salespeople still don't understand how to do these roll ups either, but they're really quite easy. So that's option 2. Option 3, this is still like using your staff, so you don't have to hire labor at these shows to do a portable modular. Okay, it's one step higher than a roll up. All right, what is a portable modular? It is one of those aluminum system back walls. They come in sizes that are specifically made to use in this context. You can get them backlit, you can get them front lit. They're just they come in all different shapes and sizes and whatnot. But basically, what it is like a giant, roughly 9 foot by 8 foot banner that you put in the back. So in this case, instead of it looking like this, what it looks like, looking at it from the front view, you have a solid backdrop here. Solid. This is solid, okay? But then you still have your pipe and drape that comes out here, okay? You still have that ugly pipe and drape, and then here's your booth floor. So that's kind of what it looks like. You still can see a little bit of this pipe and drape back here, but it covers up most of it. And this is quite common. This is quite common. Very common, actually. Very, very common. Why? Because it's a nice balance of ease of setup, low cost, and also ease of shipping. So with this, typically, this will come in one like larger case. If you wanted a cabinet, also many of the companies that do this also create a cabinet to go with it. The cabinet doesn't have doors, but it's something like to just put your stuff and have something here at the front. So a variation of this would be one where you're able to actually just put a counter right here of some kind. All right, just have a counter right there. Okay. If you have the counter, it's going to come in 2 cases. If you have just the back wall, it'll come in 1 case typically. And the cases are not that big. They can be sent via UPS or FedEx, but this is normally like maybe 12 inches, and this is like 48 inches, and this is like, I don't know, maybe 24 inches. Something like that. The problem with this is that it takes quite a bit longer to set up than this. It's more expensive. It's more expensive to buy, more expensive to ship, and it takes longer to set up, but it doesn't look as junky as this. This still is trash. This is trash. Don't do this. The other one also trash. Okay? This is trash. This is trash. This is quite common, okay? Even though it can also look a little bit junky on the show floor, it looks less junky because there's enough people doing it to where like it's pretty normal, quite commonplace at the show. So you'll either have 1 or 2 of these depending on if you get a cabinet with it or not. Now, normally these cabinets, just beware, they're fabric. They could have a case to counter conversion is what they call it. So the case that this came in that case, it would only ship in 1 case. Then they would wrap a fabric around the case, and man, it just doesn't look very good. It's just it just doesn't look that good. But if you do get the ones that are not the case to counter, imagine like a cabinet, looking at it from the back, it will be something like this, right? And then it may have a shelf inside, but it will be open. It will be open here, okay? So you will not have locking doors typically on these. Yeah, I don't know if there's someone out there doing these modular things and they have a locking door in there, please correct me. But most of them do not have the locking doors. To upgrade from this to something else, now you're looking at like different levels. But I would say this. Now, once you're at this level here, the upgrade to something that is much more substantial is like really expensive. So before jumping into that, let's see how we can optimize something like this. Let's look at how these show floors many times are laid out. Let's say you have some big booth. Here's your big players here, right? Imagine like this is the main aisle coming in. You've got the entranceway coming in. Now, as you get further and further back into the hall and away from these exhibitors, you get some of the smaller booths in here. Let's say these are 20 by 20s. And then once you get all the way back here, what you get are these banks of smaller booths. So like imagine a larger booth, okay, but then getting cut up into multiple smaller ones like this. And that's what ends up happening at many of these shows, is that you get sidelined into these zones where there's tons and tons of trash everywhere. And by trash, I mean this stuff. Trash, 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 okay? What can you do that still doesn't, that maybe increases your ability to get people like looking at your stuff, but doesn't break the budget? What you can do here, imagine people walking along this aisle right here, okay? What do? They come and they look down this aisle if there's anything worth seeing. Many times they'll just keep going, but some of them will walk down this aisle down here, okay? And so imagine you are this guy right here, okay? Imagine this is you. Let's say you have the like a modular booth in here. You got a portable modular back wall in there. That's what you got. But the problem is, so does he. Everybody has their back walls like that. And then when you look down this aisle, you don't really see very much differentiation. Now, something to keep in mind here are US rules. Imagine this front half of the booth. This is the front half right here. On all of these, you cannot build higher than 4 feet. Okay, 4 feet, which is roughly 1.2 meters. So in none of these zones can there be anything that is above 1.2 meters. So what ends up happening is that your booth from the side, imagine you're looking at it from the side. Here's someone looking at your booth like this, being like, what do? Like, And so the reality is that like this portion of your booth can only come up to like right here. This part can go the full height. All right, the back half can go the full height. And the full height for these inline booths is 8 feet, roughly 2.5 meters. Okay, so imagine this, and then this being the no-go zone. You cannot put anything here. All right, so this is a very common setup at US shows. All right, so imagine that being here. What you can do is get a smaller light box and have it be part of the kit that comes with your booth. So imagine you had one piece, which was a 10 by 10. So imagine this is your light box. Let's say you decide to do a light box, and then you get one more light box that is like maybe 1 meter or 1.2 meters wide. Okay, and these are independent. They don't connect. All right, and what that does is give you the flexibility of putting that light box here. Imagine putting it here, facing this way. Or let's say the aisle was on the other side, or you were on this side instead. All right, you could flip it around, put it on either side that you want it. You wouldn't want to put it on both sides. You would face it in the direction that most traffic is coming from. Now, that's going to change based on the show. This way, you can have a back wall and a side wall, with the side wall always pointing in the direction of the major traffic flow coming in. So, like, that's a hack right there that you can do. Have this be an independent piece that then points in a certain direction. That way you're within the rules, and also you have the flexibility of being able to switch that up. Okay, so that's what I recommend, doing a double light box. Light boxes are great if you get a good one. They look beautiful. What are some other ways to get people's attention? This is just in terms of configuration. Actually, before we jump into that, let's just talk about setting something like this up. How long is it going to take? Doing something like this, your guys are doing it. Okay, so if we're doing a portable modular, you are setting it up. Okay, you are setting it up. So what that means is that the people that you send to the show are actually the ones assembling this, plugging it in, doing all that stuff. So you just have to account for that. You have to send people who are comfortable with that. If not, then you're going to incur the additional cost of union labor. Okay, and we haven't talked about union labor yet, but union labor is an expensive thing, which is why many people do this. Union labor, typically, you're going to have a 4-hour minimum. You have a show that's happening in San Francisco or New York. You'll pay a union guy $1,000 to come there for 1 hour to set up this booth himself. And actually maybe 2 guys. They may send 2 guys because if they really want to hurt you, they'll send 2 guys for this, and so you can't have just 1 guy for this. At which point it'll cost you $2,000. $2,000 to set this up? Is that worth it? I would say probably not, because they'll be there for 30 minutes doing that. So up to you, but it's better to send maybe an extra person, like along with, a young guy, send a young, strong guy and not incur that like 1 or 2K extra charge from the show. One other thing I want to talk about in terms of finances here is shipping these items in here. So you have these, let's say you have 1 or 2 of these cases right here. You have 1 or 2 of these. They're coming to the show. They're going to, let's say they're coming in on UPS or FedEx. They're gonna, let's say you're going to Boston, you're gonna pay a lot for this. You're gonna pay somewhere around like between $250 and $350 per pound of this. And like, let's say one of these cases usually like 100 pounds. So you're gonna pay for one case, you'll pay about, let's say $350. For 2, you'll pay about 700. Let's say $700 just to get that stuff in. One way around that. So we're talking about cost cutting right now. One is labor, okay? The other is drayage. Drayage is the material handling charge from the general contractor. They charge you by weight. One way to get around this is to ship to the hotel. Ship it to the hotel and then have people hand carry the stuff over. Can be difficult if your hotel is not like right by the venue. So if they have to cross the street, fine. If they have to take an Uber and stuff, man, it's really difficult. Especially because they have to lift this thing into a car. It's just not really practical. So if you're across the street or something, or in the, you're in Vegas and like you're in the same hotel as the show, like, it's easy enough to hand wheel it in. If not, then you'll just have to incur the drayage charge. Labor, these portable modular booths are designed to avoid labor. So you probably can get away with not having to hire labor. Let's talk about the fourth option here, which is doing a custom modular booth. Okay, what happens now? Now you're shipping on pallets or crates. So instead of this, these are big components, heavy stuff. Now instead of one thing right here costing you $350 to get in, now all of a sudden that crate or that pallet costs you $3K to get in. Hopefully you have a 10x10, you can fit it on one pallet. Now all of a sudden, instead of that drayage charge being $350, now you're talking about 3,000 USD to get that in. $3K for drayage. Then you're at that point they're gonna make you get labor. You have to get labor. You'll get at least 2 guys in there, 4-hour minimums. You're spending at least 2K on labor, maybe 3. With the installation and dismantle, it's going to be 4-hour minimums for the install and dismantle. So it'll be 2K twice. Really, realistically, 2.5 at least. So you're looking at 5K in labor. So that's 8K just in drayage and labor. Then also, your shipping costs is going to go up. So depending on like where you ship this from, let's say around like, let's say 3K for shipping, and to also handle this your internal team somehow, or like some booth building company or somewhere has to deal with this, you'll pay 3K for shipping. So that's 11K just for shipping, labor, and material handling. So that's why most people don't do that stuff for a 10x10. That's why they're most commonly doing these portable modular booths for that. Why? Because it's just a lot more cost effective in terms of what you get from the show. All right, so let's talk a little bit about engagement. Okay, let's say you have your booth. How can you get people in there? There's 2 ways. One is to have some type of eye-catching thing, whatever that thing is. It could be a demo, it could be like a little a touch screen, it could be any of those things, right? One thing that we were thinking about that could be quite useful here is to actually set up some type of lighting rig on this cabinet that you have here. Let's say it's bigger. Set up a lighting rig on there that would actually attract attention to your booth. And the way that would work is like this. So imagine you have your 10x10 like this, and you have your back wall here like this. This is your back wall. And then you have, let's say you have a cabinet here. So you have that cabinet. And so what you can do, and this is quite cost effective, is actually either mount a motorized light fixture here on this So let's say you have a motorized light fixture here, and this is able to shine a light onto your back wall like this, and like like a gobo moves around. Or you can actually mount one or two up here, right? Mount one or two up here that are shining down into the booth space and even outside of your booth space. So imagine like something here, it's rotating around, it's your logo, it's shining down. You set it up so it doesn't go over here, right? No, they will complain. It goes over here. No, it will complain. But realistically, you could get this out into the aisles, okay? And like some rotating logo right here. This is a great way to attract some attention. So just, use the lighting, motorized lights. Also here, I'll also put a VR. So VR is a great like portable thing. Like you can just have a VR headset hanging out right here. You could even have, if we go to like, let's say we do a top view here. You have your back wall. If you had a cabinet here, and then you have like a seating area, right, for your meetings. Just have a VR headset right here. Have a VR headset on there. Like you invite people into the booth. It's part of the meeting experience. You can have that there, okay? It'd be cool. Especially if you have a couple, and then if you have two VR headsets, they can speak to each other, and you can actually be together in a virtual world. Let's say you want to do a walkthrough of your factory, your new facility, or whatever it is. That's a great way to be able to do that. One other thing for engagement is to make sure that your salespeople are not hanging out back here, okay? Don't have your salespeople hanging out back here on their phones. All right, that's just a bad look. Like what I would recommend actually when we talk about a layout of this booth, what's great is to actually have the back wall here. Like if you have the back wall here, to set up the counter like this. Okay, and maybe even have a couple counters, right? Set up a counter like this to keep this pathway open, and so that you don't have salespeople sitting behind a desk, right? It puts a barrier between themselves and the people. So really, your salespeople should be out here. Your salespeople should be out here, maybe having with an iPad in their hand, like talking to people in the aisle, bringing them in, okay? Bringing people in. You don't even need two counters here. You could even easily get rid of this one and just have one. Really, like, the more stuff you have, the more expensive it is to ship and set up and more time consuming and everything. You're probably better off just with one cabinet. And not only the benefit of this is that you cover up some of that ugly pipe and drape. So you have people out here, they're bringing people in. You have your table and chairs in here. You have this table and chairs. You could do cafe height. You don't have to do standing height. Why? You want the meetings, number one, to be comfortable. You don't want people like just being like, especially if there's, it's a US show. Like if you have someone who's bigger, like coming in, like they're not going to be comfortable on a bar stool. Plus, like you have your graphic up here. So this top part of the image, this is really what's so important, this part right here. You don't want people standing up blocking this, okay? Like have them sit down. Yeah, have them sit down so that this top part of this stays perfectly visible to everybody, all right? That is the most important real estate on your graphics. So you have your headline here, you have your headline, you have your subhead about what you do, your logo, like right here. Don't have people standing up blocking it if you can avoid that. So have them sit down. Furniture, show services, all those things, just order through Freeman. And then naturally, don't forget this. Just please follow up after the show, okay? So if someone comes, gives you their card, talks to you, write their name down, put them into a CRM of some kind, scan their badge, do whatever you got to do to reach out to them after the show. And that's it. I hope that this was helpful for you. I hope that I illuminated some like some knowledge for you, unlocked maybe some ideas for you on what to do here with this. I also hope that your next 10 by 10 is successful. Hopefully your program doesn't just stay at a 10 by 10. Maybe the 10 by 10 is a mix, part of a larger mix, larger booths, smaller booths. If that's the case, we'd love to hear from you. We can help you with some of your larger booths. If you would like some complimentary designs, If you would like some ideas on what to do next for your next big show, let's say it's 20 by 20 or larger, we would be happy to discuss with you.